Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for another Tuesday afternoon program here with the Genealogy Center. We're excited for today's program, which is an Ask the Experts session on planning a visit to a research center or the Genealogy Center. I'm joined today by a couple of colleagues, Elizabeth Hodges, who is a senior librarian here. My name is Kate. I'm a senior librarian here in the Genealogy Center, and Kurt Witcher is also here, our Director of Special Collections.
While we're waiting for those questions to come into the Q&A, I just like to start by number one saying that what we try to do in all of our virtual programs is to encourage sort of that crowdsourcing of information. In many ways, we're all experts, right? In the research that we've done and the areas of the country and world where we have researched, and in our particular problems, challenges, etc. So do always take advantage of both conferences and seminars and online venues to crowdsource and see if someone has some information that might benefit you or the families that you're researching or the geographic areas in which you're researching. To start out with how to really plan for a research trip, I'm going to state, I hope, something that is really obvious. I think it's been obvious for a couple decades, so I almost feel bad bringing it up because it should be so ingrained in us. But oh my goodness, in 2024, please never go on site. Never, ever, ever go on site to an archive, a library, whether it's public or special or university library or a historical society collection. Never go on site before you visit that particular repository virtually. Literally, I'll challenge everyone on our call today. Find me a record repository that doesn't have a web page in 2024. So please visit the repository online before you try to visit them in person. It will benefit you exponentially. And you might say, or you might need a little refresher on, well, what am I looking for, Kurt? And the short answer is yes. So what are you looking for? You're looking for an online catalog. You're looking for some universities and special libraries may call them a archive calendar. They may call it a LibGuide, or they may call it subject lists, snapshots. Basically, you're looking for anything that lets you have eyes in on their collection. So how can I find out if my surnames are captured? Or more importantly, how can I find out what they have for this geographic area or for this ethnic group or for this denomination if we're going to a denominational archive? How can I find out without even leaving the comfort of my home, my office, wherever? How can I find out what they actually have there? And then, of course, the next follow-on step to that is, can I access some of that remotely so that I can further my research without even visiting them physically? Because it really is a shame when you go to a place and you only have maybe 3 hours or maybe you have 3 days to research. It's still a shame to have to go there to find out you could have accessed the material that you're on site using back at home, with your favorite beverage in your comfortable chair, petting your dog or your cat. So finding out what's there, and then is any of it accessible remotely? Probe their website for any searchable anything that gives you access to what they have in their collection. And as I just mentioned, more importantly, or as importantly, what you might access remotely. Another big thing, take a quick look, but a good look at policies and procedures. There are still some libraries where you might want to go to where they don't allow you to have your suitcase full of notes, your milk crate full of research findings and copies in the research room. They allow you to have your laptop and or a pad of paper and a pencil. Those libraries are shrinking in number, but they still exist, and for reasons that are important to those entities. Find out how much copies cost. Find out whether you can use a charge card or whether you need coins or whether you need bills. I mean, it sounds like a really pedestrian 20th century thing, but I can tell you, and my two colleagues can attest to this, libraries change copier systems all the time. And sometimes you get a copier system that looks like, feels like, sounds like a throwback. Like, oh, this takes coins again, or oh, this takes bills again. Or why doesn't this copier take a debit card or a charge card? So just knowing what you need to bring with you is of great consequence. And a third point, and I'll be quiet because I know my colleagues have wisdom to share as well. Um, it's unlikely, I'm going to say very, very, very unlikely that you'll arrive at a place, and if the temperature in the place doesn't suit your personal needs, like it's too hot or it's too cold, it's very unlikely it's going to change during your research visit, because it's not like the thermostat usually on the wall in your house. Even if someone wanted to adjust the temperature up a few degrees or down 10 degrees for your personal taste, usually with these large HVAC systems, it takes them a while. It's like turning a battleship as opposed to turning an aircraft carrier. In a larger library, the bigger the ship, if you will. So dress in layers. I know you've heard that forever, and I know some of you are probably saying, gosh, Kurt, that's like decades advice. Well, we still hear in other repositories and in our repository, isn't there something you can do about the temperature? Just to be honest with you, on a Tuesday afternoon, the short best answer is no, not really. There's nothing we can do about the temperature. Our comfort level sometimes is challenged as well. So visit ahead of time, see what you can access remotely, see processes and procedures. How can I best prepare myself? And then prepare yourself with how you dress in layers.
That actually covers some of the questions that are in the Q&A. Somebody had asked, well, just to start off, someone had asked, is the Genealogy Center in the main library or another building? Yes, we are in the main library of the Allen County Public Library downtown. So just want to get that quick question out of the way. But somebody else had asked, what are the essential items to bring to ACPL for research? So as Kurt said, layers, things you need to take your notes with, whether that is a computer or paper or whatever you need. I would also bring a USB drive, because you can make as many scans as you want for free. If you would prefer photocopies, you can either pay with bills, which are pay stations, they don't give you change. So bring $1 bills if you must, but it will also take credit cards as well. So whichever you prefer.
I would echo that and say also it's important to, when you're preparing to visit, whether you're visiting here or another repository, just important to bring a plan, have a plan in mind, whether you're writing down or crafting specific research questions or thinking about specific family lines. Having that in mind before your visit could be very helpful to be able to maximize your time and find all that you can during your visit.
That's a wise piece of advice. I hope this doesn't at all sound immodest or braggadocious, but I think all of us here have experienced watching a patron come into the Genealogy Center for the first time. Our collection, I wish there was something we could do immediately about it. Our collection looks really, really big, like huge. And what does that really translate to? It looks intimidating. It's like we watch people, like their eyes get big, they look around a little bit, and it's like, oh my goodness, how am I going to find the 37 books I want to use today in 42,000 square feet of public space? That's how big our department is, 42,000 square feet. So having a plan really helps you narrow down, helps really diminish that intimidation factor. Like, okay, it's big, I don't know my way around. I could get lost. No, I'm not going to get lost. I have a plan. I know what I'm going to do. I know what I'm going to focus on. That's really, really very, very helpful. Also, if I can piggyback, Kate, on your advice of a plan, also have a plan about how you are going to get copies of things you want. Elizabeth, you touched on it a little bit. We will always have an opportunity, provide you with an opportunity to have paper copies, but everything can be saved on a USB drive. So if you prefer that, bring a USB drive or two with you in case one decides not to work for you. We have a very, very strong Wi-Fi network. So if you like sending things to your cloud, or you like storing things in the cloud, that's always an option. What do we know about technology? It works really, really well until it doesn't. And then for a nanosecond or two, it won't, and then it will come back. So again, Kate, piggybacking off of what you said, have a plan. Yep, I'm going to store my stuff to my Google Drive. I'm going to store it to my favorite cloud service. But if you can't connect for some reason, make sure you have a USB drive, or you can store it on your portable device and transfer it later.
Kind of jumping off of having a plan, somebody had asked, are there collections in your facility that are only available on site? Yeah.
Our entire collection. Well,
yeah.
That's really unfair. The physical materials, because we are a research collection, the physical materials, yes, are only available on site. We have been actively kind of the tortoise and the hare thing. We're kind of the tortoise. We're plodding along, but we're making huge progress. So about 120,000 items from our physical collection are available for free online, either at familysearch.org or at the Internet Archive. We have links in our catalog record for everything that we have digitized and is available for free. So you'll find these links when you search for things in our online catalog. And maybe one of my colleagues will show us how to do some online catalog searching. But no physical items leave here. Everything is available, though. Every hour the library is open. And again, if you prepare ahead of time, you'll be able to see those 120,000 items that you can actually access from home. You can access remotely.
We do have a question about our catalog and how you can use that to assist with preparing. So I can go ahead and share my screen and walk through that a little bit. So this is the main page for our Genealogy Center website. Here at the right, you'll see this search bar where it says Search Research Collection. So that is where you can access our catalog and begin to search and see what our holdings are. But before you get to that, a tool that you might want to check out is under this Genealogy Services tab, where we have quick search guides. So we have guides by state, by subject, or by country. And these are handy because depending on what you're researching, these guides are a list of selected materials from our collection. So it doesn't show you the whole depth of our Alaska collection or our Connecticut collection, for example, but it'll give you a good idea about the kinds of materials that we have. So if you are researching, maybe in Connecticut, for example, you could click on our Connecticut quick search guide and it'll break it down. So it gives you some research guides specifically for researching in Connecticut, books on colonial and court records, maps and place names, military, and a variety of other materials are listed here as well. So the call number is at the left and then the title of the work. So you'll be able to use that information to locate the materials when you're here on site. And
if I can just interrupt you, Kate, those call numbers, you can actually create, like in Word or in Notepad or whatever your favorite little word processing program is, you can copy and paste those call numbers, those links right into like a little kind of guide you can make for yourself so that you can hit the ground running when you arrive here. Like, these are the call numbers that I'm going to be looking for first.
yeah, and these are our subject snapshots. So we have a military quick search guide, DNA, genealogy, Jewish, Quaker records, passenger lists. So yeah, whether it's making a list of those call numbers of books that look like they might be helpful for your research, or printing it out and just kind of highlighting, going down the list and seeing what might be helpful to track down during your visit can be helpful too. So that's a good place to start. And then you can always come up here and use the search box to dive into our full collection. So if we just do a search, I'll do a search for Cincinnati. So That'll take me to a new tab. And I receive all of our results here, 1,100 results related to Cincinnati. So,
Oh my gosh, Kate, how do I look through 1,100 results?
yes, 1,100 is a big number. You can narrow your search here at the left by type of material, by format. So if you're looking for a book or microfilm or electronic resources, you can use those filters to make it a little bit more manageable. Let's see, down here, there's also publication date, language, branch, and a few other items that you can sort through. So you can use this keyword search to do a general search, but a great tool that we have in our catalog is if you go under search, there are a variety of ways to search. So if you click on, let's do advanced, you could do Cincinnati, and maybe I'm researching my German ancestors in Cincinnati, so you could do Cincinnati and German and hit go. And so that gives me 62 results. So that's a much more manageable number and easier to look through. So let's see here.
There was a question, does the
Yes.
catalog clearly indicate which resources are in library only?
Yes. So when you're looking through the resources, you should see a little call number down here, which will indicate that we have that copy on the shelf, and that's where you can find it on the shelf. Or if you go up here, and in this particular search, I don't have any electronic resources, so let me play around for a second. But if we click electronic, so it looks like there are a couple of yearbooks here. So down here, instead of a call number, we see a link to a website, and in this case it says 1973. So you can click on the item, and there in that short description we just saw 1973, but clicking on the item we see 1974, 77, 79. So that is one way that you can look and explore our electronic holdings. So always click on the catalog item, because there may be more hiding in there than you're able to see just by looking at the small description.
Yeah, and when you put your mouse over the year, just wanted to identify that for our attendees this afternoon. It turns into something that you can clearly click on. What's interesting, for lack of a better word, about our catalog, that website list of years, that doesn't look like we normally expect links to look. So when it says website, do explore that. Most often those are actually links, even though they don't appear to be links. They appear to be text like other text on the page. But if you click on those years, one at a time, whichever one you're interested in, a resource, it will take you out to a resource, in this case, Internet Archive, and boom, there you are. And you can click through that particular yearbook. And you can search through it as well on the Internet Archive.
Yeah, so going back, and let's do another search. I'll search for Fort Wayne. So another really great tool that we have is the ability to add items to a list. So if you're browsing through, looking through the catalog, and you see some items that look like they might be helpful for you during your visit, you can add them to your list. So this little link down here at the bottom, add to your list, you can click that for each item. Once you add it, you'll see a little green check mark. So you can go through, and I'm just adding a bunch here as an example.
Talking about that area of buttons, somebody did ask what the listing of buttons right above that means. So like holdings, full display.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's the holdings button. If you click on that, it'll give you a list of the items that we have, like this one, there are various years, so it gives you the call number and the location and all of the years listed out. Full display, clicking on that will just take you to the catalog, the full catalog record. And so you can look through this to see all of the links if the item is an electronic resource, or if you scroll down here, this is another place you can go to see where the item is, where the physical item is. And then going back, the place request, that button is there, but because the Genealogy Center is a reference department, our books don't check out. So that button doesn't function for us. But if we go under, so we added a few items to our list there, and if we go under my account, there's this button for my lists. And so you have your working list here, and we added 5 items, so you can see all of those listed here. And you can print it out. If you go back and look and you decide you want to remove items, you can do that. You can email it to yourself, and you can even change the format. So it's set to brief bibliographic, which will probably be the most helpful because that one will include call numbers and the full title and things like that. But you can also look at full bibliographic or APA or Chicago style as well. So definitely exploring our catalog before a visit and making a list of items that might be helpful will be a good thing before visiting.
Now, you don't need a library card to make a list. I want to make that clear. People might be confused. You don't need a library card to make a list. However, if you wanted to save it to an account, you would have to have a library card, but you don't really need that. If you're going to print it or email it to yourself, you don't need an account. There is a question about, yeah, I see somebody saying, how do I find the list items I've saved? Save it offline. Make your list, have it emailed to yourself,
right,
and save
right.
it offline.
Right.
That is the way to do that. There's somebody else asking, saying that they're from out of state. What would the advantage be to having an account or becoming a library card holder? None. I mean, you get free parking, but you have to be here a certain number of times within the year for that to be worth it. We're kind of bad librarians. So we tell people you shouldn't necessarily get a library card because you don't really need one to access our stuff.
Not meaning to tease anyone or anything, but I have a feeling, just a feeling, sometime this year, there may be, just maybe, a genealogy card with some tiny little perks attached to it that people who are not in the county will be able to advantage, but we're just not there yet. So what you just said, Elizabeth, is great advice. Like, send it to yourself, store it somewhere on your device, etc.
Now, somebody had asked about our call numbers. Do our call numbers work at other libraries? Like, would they work at the Family History Library? Will it work at another public library?
Wouldn't we love to say yes? But the answer is no, or not exactly, maybe is the better answer. Again, just being really transparent and not at all being braggadocious or immodest. Literally decades ago, we partnered with the Indiana State Library. This is probably way too much information than you really need or want to know, but we have a modified Dewey. The traditional Dewey Decimal System for a researcher kind of scrambles the books. Now, some people will disagree with me, and that's fine. But what we have found decades ago is that researchers tend to look for material by surname, by geographic location, and then maybe by some other subject, like I want the passenger list, or I want all the Presbyterian records. or I'd like your Civil War records. So we modified a traditional Dewey, which kind of scattershots things and emphasizes authors over a lot of other parts of a bibliographic record, if you will. And we said, we're gonna segregate all the family histories together. We're gonna put them in order by principal surname. So the Austins and the Adams will be in the A's, and the Zifflers and the Zinowiches will be in the Z's, and other surnames filed appropriately in between. And our geographic location is where we make the biggest difference, is that we modify the call number so that, let's pick on Illinois, our neighbors to the west, so that all the general material about Illinois are grouped together. And immediately after them, all the Illinois counties are arranged in alphabetical order by county. And we do all that by manipulating the Dewey number and the Cutter number, which library E's for the two parts of the call number. So no matter where you're at state-wise, you can be in Wyoming, you can be in Connecticut, you can be in Dade County, Florida, you can be researching Cook County, Chicago, or Wyoming in general. General state material, counties alphabetical after that, and then finally cities alphabetical after the counties. So most of our patrons quickly pick that up. They just need to know where Nebraska starts. Where does South Carolina start? Okay, South Carolina starts here. Okay, I know what the South Carolina number, all the general material like South Carolina in the Revolution, South Carolina immigration record, South Carolina migration, all that's going to be the general number. And then if they want a particular county in South Carolina, that will immediately follow the general books. And then immediately following the general or the county books will be city books. So no matter what geographic location you're searching, it's state, then the counties alphabetically, then the cities alphabetically. If you want one more little confusing tidbit, I don't mean it to be confusing, but let's say a book is about two cities. Where are you going to find that book? Well, you're going to find it in the county where the two cities are. It may not be about the county, but because it's about two cities, it bumps up to the next level. Let's say there's a book about 3 counties because it's a regional history. Well, that bumps up to the state level. What if there's a book about like Northeast Indiana, Northwest Ohio, and Southeast Michigan? So that's 3 states. Where does that book go? Well, within our modified Dewey, there are general regional numbers where a lot of those books end up, where a lot of those books land. And just to be perfectly transparent, sometimes we'll just pick a state and we'll just stick that book in a state because the catalog will tell you where it is. It'll give you the call number. So Kate, Elizabeth, do you think I confused people enough on
the way I think of it in my head are 2 different ways. I either think of it kind of like Russian nesting dolls, where big, smaller, smaller. So think of it like government, right? So your state government is going to be bigger than a county government. A county government, in theory, should be bigger than a city or a town government. So I just kind of think of it as like big, small, smaller. And since it's alphabetical, the counties and the towns and the cities, it makes it easier to browse the shelves, to be completely honest. Yeah.
So the other major system, which some of our patrons are comfortable with and used to, is the Library of Congress system. I've been in the library genealogy space for more than 4 decades. If I was to kind of level out on a scale, which do people prefer? It's about a 95-5 modified Dewey to Library of Congress. And there's a modified Library of Congress, of course. So, but whatever system works for you, if I can take the liberty of rolling back to how we first started, when you're planning your visit, one of the things you should plan for is like, how is this collection? Is this a Library of Congress cataloging system? Is it a Dewey, a modified Dewey? Sometimes looking at the call number, you'll easily and quickly be able to tell if you've been researching for a while. But I would just beg, cajole, entice you, don't get hung up on the call numbers. It's really just like an ID number. It's to help you find the book, the resource, the database, the microfilm, the periodical that you're looking for. If you can make sense of the call number and see how the call number, LC, Dewey, how it's grouping materials together, and see if you can advantage that when you're on site. But yeah, it's a call number at the end of the day is just something to help you find the material you want and hopefully group things together.
Well, and
Watch it.
jumping off of that, though, the most important thing is that if you don't understand, ask somebody. Whether or not you're talking about coming here or you're talking about going to another repository, the people who work there are typically supposed to know how the stuff is arranged. So if it doesn't make sense to you, just ask somebody. Don't be afraid of the librarians and the archivists. I know sometimes, especially the archivists, they can be a little scary, but that was a bad joke. But just ask. And I see that, some other people have asked things about, visiting other libraries like the Family History Library in Salt Lake, saying that they haven't been successful. I have to ask, when people go on these research trips and they said that they're not successful despite planning, how did you plan? Who did you talk? Did you talk to any staff when you were there? What did that plan look like? Somebody asked, well, what is a plan? Well, are you deciding to research all of the lines of your family at once and you only have like 2 days? Well, that's a little overwhelming. You might not get anything done. So kind of narrow your focus of make yourself a to-do list.
I totally agree, Elizabeth. And I know there are many people that I call freewheelers. They've done research for so long that it's like, okay, I kind of got in my head the 2, 3, 5 different families I'm going to research, and I really want to focus on this. If you find that your return on investment from doing on-site research is really shrinking dramatically, you may want to do what Elizabeth has just suggested. Be somewhat specific, say, and I'm just going to use some of my family lines, like, I've really been stuck on the Englert family, my mother's line, my mother's father's line, excuse me, for a long time. Let me go back to my notes in the cloud, in a notebook, figure out where I'm stuck, what I've found, kind of, again, plan. Okay, so maybe I should be looking for these kinds of records. Maybe I need to look at more land records or deeds, grantor grantee indexes, because it looks like that might help me. I mean, you can be really specific with your plan, and then always have a couple of plans, a couple of 3 plans, in case it's like, oh my gosh, these Englerts are still going to be a pain in my neck. I'm not going to be able to find anything. So let me work on this other line and just, so I can make some progress. But specificity can be really, really helpful in developing a plan.
Jumping off of that with narrowing your focus and asking questions, I thought I'd just share my screen again. And on our website, on the main page, there is this link up here that says have a question, click here to ask. So whether you're visiting us or another repository, definitely don't hesitate to reach out. We have a contact form here that you can use to send us an email if you're wondering about whatever you're wondering about, whether it's related to our holdings or something like that. We're glad to help you. So you can email us there or give us a call. And then I noticed some kind of logistical questions, wondering if we were accessible, if our building was handicap accessible, and it is. And another area of the website that you might check out is under about the Genealogy Center. And we do have a page specifically for planning your visit. So that's a great spot to go to as well. It'll give you information about our hours, our contact information, parking information, and a library map. Another service that we offer are free half-hour consultations with a genealogy librarian. So if there's a specific ancestor or family line that you're struggling with and you're not sure quite how to proceed, you can fill out a contact form and schedule a consultation to work with a genealogy librarian and kind of talk through some resources and recommendations that might be helpful for you during your visit.
This is a good question for you, Mr. Witcher. Are there some books that require an appointment in advance to see, perhaps a rare collection type book?
short answer is yes, that is best practice, just to ensure that you can see that material when you're here. There are a small number of books in the genealogy collection that, because of their age, their fragility, their rarity, may be in the fine books collection of the library, which falls under our special collections domain. It's really helpful if you're using our catalog ahead of time, which we really encourage. That's best practice. If you see a genealogy book that actually says its location in our catalog, says its location is fine books, go ahead and shoot us an email saying, hey, I'm coming next Saturday, I'm coming tomorrow, I'm coming on Friday. Really would like to see this book. That gives us time to pull the book, assess the book for whether it's able to be used, and to bring it up to the Genealogy Center. We also have a very, very extensive Lincoln collection, and that doesn't fit into many researchers' research profile, if you will. But if you run across materials that say Lincoln collection, that is kind of a tag, a flag, if you will, to email us ahead of time and make sure that those materials, which are in a special area of the library, a special archive area, as opposed to being right out on the shelves, email us ahead of time. That kind of helps ensure that you will be able to use the material. We will move heaven and earth as best we can to, answer and fulfill every research need when you come on site with special materials. It's kind of a benefit if you let us know ahead of time, just to ensure that it's available for when you're here.
That's especially true for just visiting anywhere. I see somebody was asking questions, any specific recommendations in planning for a research trip in another country. That is when it is especially important to contact them ahead of time.
No,
and say like,
no, it's not important. It's imperative.
Yeah, you're spending
imperative.
money to go to another country to do research.
And we all, our entire team here, knows good friends and colleagues at large repositories like the National Archives and the Library of Congress. Funning with you, Elizabeth, a little bit. No, it's not important to do that when you're researching at the National Archives and the Library of Congress. It's absolutely imperative.
You have to.
You will. You will be, wanting to impale yourself on a stake if you go unprepared to the National Archives or the Library of Congress, because you will get nothing or close to nothing. Just how big they are, how they operate. They have such a wealth of material. If you research them ahead of time, prepare ahead of time, and look at what it's going to take. I've had a number of frustrating experiences at large repositories, even when I knew what was going on, because they just operate differently. So an unnamed library on or I should say an unnamed repository on the East Coast, I've researched there a couple of times, not recently, but well before COVID. And the reading room, there was only 6 of us in the reading room. And so I put in my maximum number. So I put in a small number, but it was a maximum you could request at a time. 2 of the 3 came back, can't find. That's kind of on brand for some repositories. And the person who was retrieving the materials sat down and waited 55 minutes until the hour came back around to when they would look for books again, even though that person wasn't looking for books for about 45 of those 55 minutes. Not a criticism. I know it sounds like it, but knowing that's how they operate. We will accept requests once an hour. Good to know. We only accept X number of requests at a time. Good to know. Like, how can I plan to maximize my time there? And maybe you decide that I need to get someone else to look in that repository, and I'm going a little far afield there, but just what you said, Elizabeth, it's just so very important. Foreign countries, absolutely.
Yeah.
Large repositories, know what their processes are. It's really beneficial never to vent your anger at some or worker at a library or archives or research repository because they're following the rules that you don't like. I mean, that's a sum zero game. There's no benefit in that. If we were all king, we would do everything differently, right? Again, prepare. It really is imperative. Even our friends at the Family Search Library in Salt Lake City, using their discovery tools. I think there's 3 different sections of the catalog now you have to look at to see what they have. Do that so that you know what materials might be available and what materials may not be available. So, word to the wise.
In the same vein of preparation, somebody had asked, can our local genealogical society plan a group visit, or would that be too many people descending upon us at once?
Yes, you're welcome to bring your genealogy society for a tour, for a visit. If you'd like to give us a call or send us an email and let us know when you'd like to come and how many people you're expecting, and we would love to have you. So you're more than welcome to bring your group.
Absolutely. And if I can springboard off of that, Kate. So tomorrow we have 8 to 10 people from Wood County, Ohio. They just notified us this morning that they will be here tomorrow. We have 10 people from another Ohio area, Ohio library. On Thursday, day after tomorrow, we have, 42 people coming from central Indiana to visit us. And I have to say, if the 42 and the 10 and the 10 all came on the same day, there'd still be space for another 60, 80, 100 people to come and research in the department. If you recall what we were talking about when we first started this session at the top of the hour, 42,000 square feet of public space. So there's a lot of room for a lot of groups. We can also customize experiences. So if you let us know ahead of time that we'd like a tour of the physical area, give us tips and tricks on how things work and where things are at. And we'd really like to know more about your periodical source index and how to use it. We actually have like a classroom, meeting room inside our department. So we can do a special program for your group. We can kind of have a mini one of these with your group. Like if you're here all day, maybe midway through the day, you might want to have a quick 15 to 20 minute debrief. Like, okay, who's stuck on what? Who needs help getting over a little mini brick wall? Or how can we use the second half of your day here to be successful? So we welcome groups. Sometimes it's really nice to travel with genealogy buddies, right? So you can do some networking and crowdsourcing. And sometimes when you can leave the driving to someone else, that's a good day, that's a good day.
One of our soon-to-be visitors said, that's me, going with the best girls in town. That's great. Right. I love that. So somebody had asked about Internet Archive, like where do those resources live on our website? I'm going to share my screen really quick and show all of you where you can find some of those resources. So if you're on our homepage, genealogycenter.org, if you click on the red button, the Our Resources button, that brings you to databases. So those are the free databases and our on-site databases. I do have a memory of somebody asking about family Bible records in the Q&A. Those would be under this red button. Now, if you click on the button next to it, Family History Archive, you will see links to the Family Search Digital Library, also Internet Archive. So those are our scanning partners that Kurt mentioned. And there's also werelate.org as well. So if you click on Internet Archive, this brings you to the stuff from our collection that's been digitized on Internet Archive. Right. It's not a small number. Right. Now, you can still find this stuff just by going to Internet Archive's homepage, archive.org, and searching. You don't necessarily have to do it through our website. That's what I'm getting at.
And I would just offer, even though I think what we have digitized is pretty amazing, 120,000 plus of our collection just on the Internet Archive. Please don't just search through our collection.
Yeah.
Internet Archive has been digitizing at the Library of Congress, New York Public, Aberdeen, Scotland, another half a dozen to a dozen places here in the United States. Search across, as Elizabeth just showed you, search across all of Internet Archive, because you'll be amazed at the histories, family histories, local histories, church histories, ethnic histories that you'll find in Internet Archive. Oh my goodness, there's so much there.
Atlases as well are, I love a good 19th century atlas. Now, if you click on Family Search Digital Library, that brings you to digitized books that are not on an Internet Archive. And this search bar searches across all of the partner organizations, not just us.
And I just have to jump in here. Not that I haven't been jumping in all afternoon. I'm so geeked about this. The Family Search people are always pretty conservative about what they put on their website number-wise. It says over 500,000, over 500,000. Actually, reported just 20 days ago, there's almost 600,000 books freely available on Family Search. Oh my goodness, you know what that means? That means every one of us has a personal genealogical library of almost 600,000 items. So use this in preparing to go anywhere. Why would you go from Austin to Dallas? Why would you go from Indianapolis to Fort Wayne? Why would you go from Fairfax to New York City if it's available online for free? So there's just so much really, really great resources. Sorry for the interruption, Elizabeth.
Oh, no, that's fine. Just as a tip, so I actually searched the name of a book that my great uncle wrote many moons ago. Just to show an example, when you search for something, if you click on access level, this might be a little in the weeds for people, but there's a couple different options for access level. This is public, which means that the author gave permission or it's out of copyright. If it's protected, that means it's locked down and you can't open it. So if you see something like this, you could take the title, copy it, and maybe put it in worldcat.org and see what libraries have it near you that you can actually go look at it. Because it might be protected because of just simply copyright, but there might be other copies elsewhere.
Absolutely.
Does the library, as in the Genealogy Center, have a special focus on a particular area, such as Indiana, or a type of material, such as naturalization records? Do we focus on any one particular geographic location or place?
I think the short answer is no. Your mileage may vary depending upon what you're looking for. If I can use like a Target analogy, we heavily focus on North America, and we define it for collection development purposes, Canada and the United States. But I almost hesitate to say that anymore, because our collection over the last couple of decades has really grown quite robustly. We have a huge British Isles collection, just an amazing for all of the geographic areas in the British Isles. We have a growing collection of German materials. We have a pretty impressive Yiskor and Jewish historical collection. So we are one of the largest repositories of South African material outside of South Africa. So yeah, we have a focus, but oh my goodness, please use the catalog. Please email us if you're having a challenge using the catalog, because we are an international collection. Yes, it's a North American focus, but you'll be hard pressed to find a better Irish collection anywhere outside of Ireland. Library Archives Canada uses us for their customer referral. There's just a lot of amazing materials. Anything that's published anywhere in the world for a particular geographic area or a particular ethnic group, we try to acquire. So it's a pretty amazing collection.
Does copyrighted material ever expire?
Yes.
Yeah.
And there's copyright, and then there's copyright. it's quite squishy. We could spend another hour just talking about copyright law, and
That's
you'd
a whole
all be
other thing.
asleep within like 5 minutes.
How do different libraries, archives, et cetera, decide what procedures they're going to have regarding things like pens and pencils and cameras and making copies?
I don't know. I don't know if
I think
you
it
were,
depends on the material.
yeah. And it, yeah.
Yeah.
Gosh, I don't know, Kate, whether you have any ideas. I agree, Elizabeth, it depends on the material. I think some of it depends on philosophy.
Yeah.
So when if we have a decision to make, and we oftentimes don't have a clean decision to make, but if we have a decision to make whether we're going to get a nice leather bound gold gilt family history, or we're going to get the paperback version of it and put library buckram binding on it for 1/10 of the price, we'll get the paperback version and put library buckram binding on it, which is really sleepy and boring, but it containers the information, right? Literally from the founding of this department way back in the 20th century when Fred Reynolds started this department, his core philosophy we kind of still embrace. It's all about the data. It's really not about the artifact. And I know that's a cringe factor for some people, and I get it. I totally get it. Sometimes you get the data and a wonderful artifact. But if we can get data that is not in a special for all time kind of container, we usually preference that, and we then put it in a for all time container like library buckram binding. So we emphasize heavily info over artifact. We emphasize, content over container. And we really want people to be successful finding their stories. So that we have first editions of all of these things. And that's nice. There's a place for that. Totally respect that. Been to some awesome first edition collections. Been in some awesome antiquarian dealers who are peddling that kind of material. It's amazing. It's almost as good as gold. But for us, our gold is making you successful. It's helping you find your family stories.
And also, I do want to also point out, it's something that just came to me thinking about research I've done in various archives in Ireland, is that, if you're talking about like manuscript materials that are in archives, some of the rules they have dictating things like photographing, photocopies, etc., that can go in with the deed of gift. So when that stuff was donated to the facility, the donor might say, I do not want this stuff reproduced. Now, that's up to the discretion of the archive or library, but I remember in grad school looking at some materials that were from Eamon de Valera, who was the first president of Ireland, and I can tell you they wouldn't let you photograph anything. I had to hand copy letters on a piece of paper. It was very time consuming and stressed me out a lot, but like it was because of the rules of that collection, not even just the institution, that particular collection. So it all depends. When in doubt, ask what the rules are.
Right.
They will tell you emphatically what the rules are.
Yeah. It's part of that preparation. And hearing you say that, Elizabeth, brought something else to mind. When you're in an archive, a library that has a large manuscript collection, understandably, and I totally endorse this, they're going to have rules and regulations that make sure this one-of-a-kind document, this one-of-a-kind collection is there tomorrow and next year and next decade and next generation. So they're gonna kind of twist the rules pretty tight as far as what you can do and how you can view that. And oftentimes you can only have so many of those objects out at a time, etc. So if it's a manuscript, if it's a one-of-a-kind item, please don't expect necessarily that you'll have the same kind of access. And that again just rolls around to what we said at the beginning: prepare, prepare, prepare. And then one little tidbit that we get some pushback on just a few items every once in a long while here. If there's a very valuable, few-of-a-kind item in our collection and it's in the Find Book Room, and there's a digital copy available, you're going to have access to the digital copy. Only on very, very rare circumstances will we bring the original out of the Find Book Room. There has to be a specific reason. Like, why do you need to handle this one-of-a-kind plat map for Wayne Township in the mid-19th century when it's totally digitized online? Well, I really like the feel of paper. That's not going to carry the day. Well, I really like to see the different colors on the Sanborn map. Well, we have a lot of Sanborn maps that are available. We have a few that aren't because of their condition. If they're digitized, we will help you navigate, copy, and save and archive a digital copy of a digitized version. But for some materials, not all, and not even the majority, but for some materials in our library and in other libraries, if there's a digitized copy, your access to a fragile or valuable original, a manuscript, may be compromised, maybe dialed back just a bit. So nothing personal. It's just libraries and archives like to see that those valuable materials last for a couple more centuries.
Well, that's a great note to end on, and we're just about out of time anyway. If anyone would like a copy in the chat, or if you have more questions, please send us an email. I see Kate has already put our email in the chat, but it is genealogy@acpl.info. Kate, do you have anything else to add, or Kurt?
I don't think so. I would echo that. Thank you all for attending,
Yep.
and please don't hesitate to reach out, give us a call, or send us an email with any questions that you have. And we're looking forward to seeing all of you visit. So thank you.
Thanks so much.
Bye-bye.